ಸೈಲೆಂಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಬರ್ತದೆ ಫೋನು. సరే 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 తర్వాత చేస్తాను. రేపు చేస్తే పొద్దున్నే చేస్తాను. talking to you today, morning, and you asked to complete the application. It is already completed and we log and we start. So actually, this is what the certificates already submitted and last time, listen, listen, madam. I will tell you that whatever you need, if anything required, I will do it, no problem. But yesterday, all the documents, Isabella, being in graduate school, submitted the from the transcripts to, did you updated that information which is there in the application? Mm, definitely you can talk with her. You can set up a phone call and you can talk with her. Yeah, yeah. Please waive that application fees. Yeah, she, yeah. You connect with her, and yeah, I actually means communicating with her. She said that it is already completed, and she asked, so can you waive that application and she can do one more click the submit button? Oh, can you send the link? Can you send the link to her email? I will ask her to click again the link.
Not just about bringing technology to them, but also what are the needs for growth and how do we support them from the very early stages.
Yeah, that's great to hear. I know across Google, we spend a lot of time thinking about investing in the startup ecosystem all up. I want to now talk a little bit more about AI. You mentioned that this is obviously one of the biggest growth areas, and AI innovation is moving at such a fast pace. And I know it's super challenging to keep up and to be able to build and scale a startup while the technology is constantly shifting. How are you seeing startups stay on top of all this, and how is Google Cloud helping across all the layers of the stack?
We've always felt at Google that for AI, we need to support startups in 3 or 4 different ways. The first one is providing them those startups that are focusing on building foundational models, access to our technology infrastructure, meaning our accelerator systems that whether it's GPUs or TPUs, super high performance storage, the ability to build large scale clusters. So the first thing we're doing is giving them access to our entire technology stack so they can build great foundation models with it. It's not just the chips, but it's also the software layer, things like JAX, our compilers, our pathways technology that's super interesting to a number of startups. So that's one. Second is there are a number of them that want to build models, but also want to reach the developer ecosystem. And we're helping them reach through the developer ecosystem to the many developers that we have by bringing them in their models onto Vertex, which is our platform. I personally worked with Anthropic, with Cohere, with Mistral, with AI 21 Labs. These are examples of companies that we've helped with taking their model and then bringing it to the developer ecosystem. We also have a number of startups using our platform for building applications. And applications, for example, we work with Typeface, that's building an application in the area around marketing, content creation, and the ability to create advertising in a brand new way. So that's an example. We work with Magic, a company that's building software development focused applications to assist people in writing software code. And so we assist people who are building applications. Some of them are using our models, Gemini, Imagine, and there's a large number of startups doing that. Some of them are also building applications and using our infrastructure for things like billing, customer care, because they don't have the resources to do it themselves. And we provide that infrastructure to them so they can get distribution, they can focus on building the best product, and we bring it to market with them.
Great to hear. I know that we're proud that nearly 90% of Gen AI unicorns and more than 60% of funded Gen AI startups are Google Cloud customers. And that is in large part because of the integrated ecosystem and platform that we offer. I also want to talk a little bit, go into more specifics on developers. So we know that more than 2 million developers are building with our Gen AI solutions. How are developers accessing Google's AI innovation? And what are you hearing? And what are some of the investments that we're doing specifically for developers right now?
We're working with the developer ecosystem in a variety of different ways. I'll touch on just three examples that I've seen. One is to give people access to Google's models, to developers building apps. And we offer for small developer teams and individual developers a product called AI Studio, which makes it very easy to build applications. And for teams that are larger in scale or building applications that are more focused to enterprises, we offer a platform called Vertex. Both are, our focus has been to put together all the capabilities that developers need because when you actually use a model to build an application or an agent, you actually need a variety of capabilities. You need the ability to tune the model, to evaluate the quality of the model, to ground it in either the web or private data to improve the quality of the answers, to be able to do retrieval augmented generation. So there's a variety of capabilities you need when you build with a model. And so we provide that in the platform. We've also provided an open platform because we know developers want a choice of models. So you can use our models, you can use top tier third party models, and you can use the best open source models, whether that's Llama, Mistral, there's a variety of them that we support. Why are we doing that? Because we want to provide developers the ability to learn a set of tools, but then access the best models. And we offer over 150 models now in the platform for a variety of different tasks and domains. So that's the second thing we're doing. Third thing, for developers, we invested in training, certification, support for them. When they're building applications, you can access a support organization to get help if you get stuck. We've got various other programs like startup credits that we're offering developers who work in startups. Finally, developers really need to communicate and work with teams. So we also are seeing huge interest in Google Workspace, Gmail, chat, Google Meet for conferencing, code design. And so we've also brought our collaboration tools to the developer ecosystem. And if you talk to most of the startups in the world and most of the developers in the world, they use Google Workspace as their collaboration platform.
That's great. Thank you for sharing all those different examples of how we're working specifically in helping developers. I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about the tangible business impact we're seeing from AI. I know you light up when you talk to customers and hear their stories about real use of AI to drive growth, reduce costs, increase efficiency. Can you share a couple of examples from companies that are using AI in production right now?
We've always been careful not to overhype AI. And there's a tendency in the tech community to overhype what it can do. And often that leads to people having a backlash against it. So we've been very careful about saying, let's have those who are successful using our AI talk about it for us rather than us talk about it. But we're seeing really great use of AI in a variety of places. Just as a very specific example, customer care and changing the way you work with customers. We've seen people build, for example, an in-car experience to assist people while they're using a vehicle and talking to the vehicle, and not just having speech to text, but actually having an intelligent system in the vehicle. The work we're doing with Wendy's and McDonald's, taking AI and putting it in the point of actual customer engagement so that when you're in a drive-through at Wendy's, you can talk to it. And that allows you to get way better customer service. The work we've done at many telecommunications companies to help their customer care reach better. And by reach better, handle more inquiries, upsell and cross-sell products so you can drive more top-line revenue, and also make it much more efficient in answering questions. So there's many things we've seen in the customer side. We've seen people building products using AI. One of the examples that we've seen is Samsung, where they took the Galaxy smartphone, put our AI into it, and reimagined the device not as a device with software on it, but as an AI-enabled device. And so we've seen they have huge number of users, millions and millions of people doing it. Similar example, we're super excited with what Snap has done, putting our AI into the Snap social media platform so that you can talk to an AI-powered, if you will, assistant or buddy, and that buddy can provide you a variety of services. It can help you answer questions. It can talk to you and assist you in a variety of ways. So we're seeing the second thing is people reimagining products in a variety of ways. And the third is helping people within the company do things faster, better, more efficiently. One of the things we've been super proud of is the work we've done with many healthcare organizations, helping doctors and nurses find information better. These are all examples of things where we're taking a task that is done a particular way and then transforming it in a different way by applying AI, thereby assisting people with better information faster. And all of these are different ways when people talk about productivity. When we look at the nurse example, just being able to help the nurses be at the bedside of the patient, taking care of them, rather than being away from the patient, sitting at a computer and typing notes, allows them to take better care of people. But it's a fundamental improvement in productivity that they couldn't do before. So these are all different domains. Every day we get surprised, to be honest with you. I've seen so many creative uses of the technology that we could have never fathomed. And we're always thrilled when we see them.
Yeah, no, that's great. I know last week we had our Gemini at Work event where we had over 50 different customer stories and some really interesting marketing use cases, of course, which are near and dear to my heart, where a company created a roving billboard that changed every block into a new type of billboard message on that, which would have been impossible before Gemini and before AI. So it is great, and definitely encourage all of you to check out all of the use cases that we had shared last week at that Gemini at Work event, both across Google Cloud and Google Workspace. Mark Cuban has been sharing stories about how his use of Gemini for Workspace has completely changed how he's building his business as well. So super exciting.
And we're seeing real business results, Alison. I mean, when we spoke with the CEO of Puma, for example, the shoe company, or when we worked with Radisson Hotels to streamline the way they are creating highly tailored, personalized advertising. It was not just that they saw a big lift in the speed with which they could do this, and therefore the reach of the marketers, and the ability to personalize it. But the biggest thing they see is the improvement in conversion. And conversion is the holy grail in marketing, because the more effective your conversion is, the more revenue per dollar you're generating of advertising spend. And they're doing things that they could not have done even a year ago, materially faster, better. But the biggest thing that we're seeing is real return on investment. And so I think we've been cautious about overhyping what AI could be, because usually when you overhype a technology, it leads to disappointment later. So we've sort of paced it as we've seen customers use it, and our best advocates are the customers who are using it.
Yeah, that's for sure. And so sharing all those stories is critical for us. And to all of the startups that are listening now, please keep feeding us your stories, because we would love to be able to showcase them. And in fact, one of the ways that we like to help startups is through our marketplace. And we want to be able to give other companies access to all of the cool technology that you're building. A great example of a startup using our online marketplace is Gretel. And they're focused on helping developers generate high quality synthetic data to develop and train AI models. And I know they offer its platform on Google Cloud Marketplace and integrating with BigQuery. And so that enables businesses to quickly access synthetic data directly within Google Cloud. Thomas, can you share a little bit about our marketplace and our thoughts about building an open ecosystem?
I mean, if you just look, Allison, at the reason we bring our technology to startups, if I can just give you an anecdote, when Sergey and Larry started Google, it took them a certain amount of time to write the search engine, but then it took them many, many more months, in fact, years, to build the infrastructure to scale the search engine. That infrastructure is the technology infrastructure of Alphabet. And we take all of that and we're bringing it along with the latest AI advances and algorithms from Google to startups as sort of a pay it forward, if you will. Imagine if Larry and Sergey had a cloud like Google Cloud when they started their startup. And so our idea was fundamentally, can we help a startup founder somewhere in the world who has a great idea with the technology that can give them the reach and scale to be able to go global very quickly? So that's number one. Number two, if you look at Google search, every day, many, many startups are being discovered on the web because they're listed on Google search. So we took that idea of all the small business in the world are now listing on Google search, Google Maps for discovery, and said, imagine if a startup could be discovered by all the enterprises that use Google Cloud. And can their product and technology be discovered? And then secondly, particularly if you're sold to enterprise, it's a long, complicated process to get all the approvals. The CIO's organization has to put you through procurement process, et cetera. Our marketplace streamlines that for a startup, because if you list in the marketplace, all our products, typically when a company contracts with us, they also say they want to be able to use any of the products in our marketplace. So we're not just giving you discovery and access to the thousands and thousands and thousands of customers and the millions of users and developers who use Google Cloud so they can find your company. But we're also streamlining the process through which they can contract for you. Because when a customer contracts with Google, they set aside some of their dollars to access the marketplace. So our goal is to sort of bring the technology, help you build your startup, and then bring you to the enterprise through the marketplace.
Yeah, no, that's great. And certainly one of our big areas of investment, and one of the many reasons that startups are choosing to build with Google Cloud, is we want to help you be as successful as possible. And as my final question, I would love for you to share, just as we wrap up, how you personally think, as the CEO of Google Cloud, about startups and investing in startups, and what our commitment is to the community that's listening in today.
We've always said software is a business that is constantly changing, and it's changing at the rate of the best ideas. Secondly, with cloud computing, make it easily accessible. Technology used to be hard for a startup to get access to. right? Because they didn't have the resources to buy a data center. They didn't have the resources to build AI models. Now, through the cloud and through Google Cloud, we're giving you access to the best technology, and it's super easy to get started. You just go online, access our API, and get going. So we've always felt startups need all the technology, the resources, the go-to-market support we're giving them, and allows them to imagine great ideas. And then go from that imagination to translating that to reality much more quickly because the technology is available to them very cost effectively. Lastly, I still imagine our organization as a startup. People look at us and go, why do you say that? Well, first of all, just 6 years ago, no one gave us a shot. Everyone told us you're third, fifth, 29th. We were the 29th largest software company in the world in those days. Today, we are either third or fourth. And so that growth has come by having an outsider's mindset and looking at how can we bring our technology. And we've always looked at ourselves as a challenger. And we've always looked at ourselves as, can we still represent our organization like a startup? And that's been we're super proud that we've been able to disrupt the market, to build this business, and to bring technology to so many companies around the world. And we want to encourage every startup founder who's out there and trying to think, will I be able to do that? If we could do that, everyone can. And we're here to help you do that.
Well, thank you so much. I know it's an honor to work with all of these companies and to be able to be part of their own building and growth story. And your perspective has been really insightful. And I can't reiterate enough how much we think about startups day in, day out at Google Cloud and across Google Workspace. And so that wraps our session with Thomas. And now I want to encourage you all to watch our next session, where startup founder Alex from Field.AI and Han from Click Therapeutics will share their success stories in rapid AI deployment. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Allison.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Startup Summit. My name is Sarah Kennedy. I'm Vice President of Growth and Demand at Google Cloud. And among many other things, my team leads startup marketing for Google Cloud, and they are the driving force behind amazing events like you're joining today. And so I'm thrilled to be here with you all, and I'm excited to be welcoming Alex Mashrabov, CEO at Field.AI, and Han Chu, CTO at Click Therapeutics, both joining me today for a really interesting conversation. They've both been incredible partners, as well as Google Cloud customers, and they're both thought leaders who are disrupting their respective categories in remarkable ways. And so we're going to spend a little time today talking about the impact of AI on their teams, on their businesses, and on the customers that they serve. And we're also going to dig into some of the things they've learned along the way as I ask them to just reflect on their journey, but maybe share some tips with each of you who are joining us today. So it's going to be an inspiring session, and we're going to hopefully have a little fun along the way as we go. So let's get started. Alex and Han, thank you so much and welcome to the Startup Summit. Let's start with one of my favorite questions currently. And, we used to ask people a lot of times, what was the last thing you searched for on Google? And now we're asking people, what's the last AI prompt maybe you typed into Gemini? And for me, it was pretty boring. It was about org structures and best practices. So I'm hoping you both have a little bit more of a fun answer than I do. But Alex, let's go to you first. What was the last prompt you typed into Gemini?
Yeah, sure. I'm a huge soccer fan. And I'm coming to Europe in late December. So I use Gemini to find the best soccer game to watch during my time in Europe.
That's awesome. That's a great use case. So Han, what about you? What was the last prompt you submitted?
I just asked Gemini when my daughter's terrible tooth phase will be over. And to my disappointment, it says not anytime soon, although it's very accurate. So
100% accurate. Well, then let's dive in now. Thanks both for having a little fun with me there. But let's learn a bit more about your companies and the roles that you both play. So starting with you, Alex. So let's talk about this incredible company you founded, Higgsfield AI. So what is your mission and what led you to that?
Sure. So let me start with describing Higgsfield. Higgsfield AI is a multimodal AI company building tools to democratize personalized creative storytelling through our proprietary video model. AI gives us an edge to transform people photos to moving digital characters, so people become heroes of AI-generated stories. The reason why we are doing that is that video became de facto the main content format on the internet. It accounts for 80% of traffic, and video has up to 10x higher engagement than images. I definitely saw the power of video on social media during my time at Snap, where I was the head of generative AI. In the same time, I saw that video creation today is extremely costly and time-consuming. And we think there is an opportunity to democratize video creation from just prompt engineers to everyone. And I have been doing this since 2016. I dedicated almost all my professional career to democratize and make generative AI actually useful. And I left Snap last year and founded Higgsfield to leverage a new technology of video world models to revolutionize this space.
It's great. Well, thanks, Alex. So now to you, Han. So you joined Click Therapeutics, I think it was a little over 3 years ago. So can you share maybe about what inspired you to make that move and what's the company working on today?
So 3.5 years ago, I joined Click as Chief Technology Officer because I was extremely inspired by Click's mission. Click develops, validates, and commercializes products that go through the rigor of randomized clinical trials and FDA clearance. And all of our products are built on top of our AI-enabled platform, which adapts to the patient's progress throughout the journey. And by doing that, we achieve superior outcomes. I'm extremely pleased to let you know that we just hit primary endpoint in our pivotal study for a preventive treatment of migraine, which is our CT132 product. In addition to that, in collaboration with Otsuka, we developed the first FDA-cleared adjunctive treatment of major depressive disorder symptoms. So essentially, Click's mission is to close the gaps in care and increase access to high-quality, evidence-based prescription digital therapeutics. And I'm extremely passionate about that mission.
That's really cool. I mean, both of you are working on incredibly interesting problems and missions. So I love that. And so let's dig a little deeper. Let's talk about AI, maybe how you're using it in your work. So Alex, I'll come back to you. Maybe you could share 1 to 2 of the most impactful ways that you think about AI and the relationship to your business, maybe how your team is actually using it in their day-to-day work so far.
Yeah, we're having a lot of fun with generative AI, and we use this a lot in our processes. So we do market research with generative AI, then we create videos with generative AI for social media. This is how we get users, customers to download our mobile app called Diffuse. And then users pay to generate videos with AI. So with AI, we're fully closing the loop. So I think, and this is only the beginning. And I can imagine that with AI, we'll be able to fully automate the process end to end. So that the humans have only to do creative work.
I love that. And we're experimenting a lot with the same at Google, as you can imagine, in Google marketing as well. But I'm curious too, so what about some of the most interesting stories now you've heard from customers about the value you're bringing them through AI?
Yeah, this is a really profound question. So overall, we definitely see that a lot of customers already have great success with cutting down the cost with generative AI and augmenting their personnel to do more with less. Actually, it is surprising for us that some large media organizations think that generative AI is giving them an edge to appeal to new audiences. So they see generative AI as a way to expand their business rather than just cut down the costs.
That's great. So Han, over to you. So what are the most impactful ways you're using AI day to day?
So all of Qlik's core products are built on top of our AI-enabled platform. It is a white box AI, which is explainable and interpretable. We adapt our treatment journey based on the patient's response. On top of that, our engagement technology use deep learning algorithms to find opportunities as well as tactics to best engage our users, as well as preventing dropout from the treatment. And that's why we're able to achieve really some of the highest engagement percentage across all of our products. And then finally, we do digital therapeutics, so we are able to collect a significant amount of user data. We de-identify them and lay on top of that machine learning algorithms to extract insight that further allow us to develop more efficacious as well as different digital therapeutics over time.
That's great. Well, can you tell us a little bit more about how you're using AI and maybe Gemini specifically to bring additional value to your customers?
Of course. So internally, we use Gemini in various use cases. In fact, the moment that we adopted Gemini, we just see a lot of creative and great examples of using Gemini Enterprise throughout our workflow across multiple teams. So one example came to mind, our user researchers were able to use Gemini Enterprise to come up with the first draft of questions that we then iterated on before we give it to our patients during the user research session. Some of our teams are also able to use Gemini Enterprise to analyze, collect patient sentiment in public forums. And that informed us how to better target certain digital therapeutic areas.
That's great. Thanks, Han. So coming back to you, Alex, let's talk about challenges. We've talked about all the goodness that comes from AI so far, but obviously it's no easy road to deliver that. And there's a lot of obstacles that you have to overcome when you're the ones making some of those decisions. So maybe you could share a little bit more, Alex, around some of the biggest challenges or obstacles that you have faced with AI and how did you overcome them?
This is a really good question. Generally, it is extremely hard to find true product market fit with generative AI. Pace of development is critically important, and at Hicksfield, it is the fastest I have ever seen in my life. We learned that AI infrastructure is really hard to build in a flexible way. So it is definitely almost like a free gift that Google gives access to AI infrastructure. We still have to pay for GPUs, and GPUs are expensive, but this Google Cloud Platform AI infrastructure layer definitely gives us flexibility to quickly experiment and learn.
It's great. Well, so Han, I'm going to come back to you. Can you share maybe some more about the technical and operational challenges that you've been facing when implementing AI just into your core products?
Because we are in the healthcare industry, really the first and the most critical concern we have in adopting AI tools is data privacy and data security. And when we were assessing the best tools for us to use, Google and Gemini Enterprise checked all the boxes because Google is known to have really the most robust data privacy and data security posture. And second, when we were considering tools, the second question we thought about was, well, how tightly is this integrated into our day-to-day workflow? How seamless is this already integrated into our tools? And Gemini Enterprise also shines there because we already use Google Workspace very heavily. And so it's a pretty natural extension for us to turn on Gemini Enterprise, and immediately a lot of our colleagues already got the value out of Gemini Enterprise once we turn it on, whether it's in Gmail or in Google Docs or in spreadsheet. And so data privacy, data security, as well as the seamless integration, those were the factors that we consider when it comes to adopting Gemini Enterprise.
That's great. Thanks, Han. So let's talk a little bit more about the help you need along the way, right? So Alex, I'll go back to you just to ask, maybe how has Google Cloud supported Hicksfield AI as you've scaled, and how should other founders be thinking about whether it's different technologies or services that maybe you found particularly valuable that they should be thinking about or considering leveraging from Google as well?
So let me go back to our mission. Our mission is to democratize video creation. We can see that the foundational technology like text-to-video is getting better and better, although the adoption is still very limited. And the key problem is that the success rate is like 1 out of 10, 1 out of 20, and it feels like hit or miss. So we believe that democratizing of this technology will come through complex multi-agent pipelines where video understanding plays the critical role to ensure that the final result matches the user's intentions. And we learned that Gemini's video captioning is the best on the market. A few weeks ago, we ran a comprehensive internal analysis. We compared multiple closed source and open source tools against each other. And we noticed that Gemini is probably the only system which goes through the whole video, while other systems probably do just keyframe by keyframe analysis. So other systems, they are not able to capture full expressiveness and action and motion in the video. Another aspect is definitely dataset collection, as we have seen that Google offers unprecedented network speed between instances, compute instances, and storage, GCS buckets. And probably another key thing is that GKE makes Kubernetes easy to use for everyone, and it doesn't require any DevOps experience to kick things off. And the last piece, but this is critically important, is the support from Google Cloud team. We have seen the turnaround times to be minutes. And I definitely can see that Google Cloud support team operates like a startup. This is critically important for us as our needs constantly evolve as we notice new and new consumers' behaviors.
That's great. Well, so Han, I'm going to come back to you. So there's a lot of different leaders, listening and joining us today and trying to figure out where to get started with AI. And there's a lot of options, but can you share a little bit more about the thing that you leaned into first? What was the most helpful for you as you were on this journey?
I think for organizations where AI and machine learning is their core competency or core part of their offering, thinking about AI strategy and data strategy as a very much of a long-term commitment that requires strong vision makes the most sense. As business leaders, I think business leaders have to be able to articulate the value of AI and machine learning to their organization and to their customers. For companies that want to use AI to improve their productivity and efficiency, I would say, you want to explore pretty widely out there. It's very cost prohibitive to train large language model. And so therefore, it simply doesn't make a lot of sense for smaller companies to reinvent the wheel. And I think there are already a lot of great tools that are already developed out there that many companies can leverage immediately and get those immediate benefits. And so, my advice to organizations that want to use AI to improve their productivity, efficiency would be to really dive in, get some of these tools working and see how it goes for your organization. If somehow it doesn't work out, try a different thing.
That's great. Well, that kind of leads us to our final question. And maybe this is sort of our quick tip of the day for anybody joining us, just to founders, anybody looking to establish an AI startup or to integrate AI and use it in their day-to-day work. There's a lot of information out there and it can get overwhelming, right? But both as you look kind of in hindsight, as well as looking forward and maybe some of the things that are working really well for you and your teams today, what's the one tip you would give somebody who is in a leadership position with implementing AI and leveraging it for the most value in their day-to-day work? And maybe Alex, will go to you first, and then Han, I'll come back to you to close.
Sure, this is a really great question. I think I would give an advice that the business success and business results are not coming from just one model. So it is really important to kind of pick the right tools, pick the right vendors, and holistically evaluate the quality of the system and identify probably just one core piece where your team will innovate to deliver the highest return, the highest value to your customers. I think it's so hard to innovate like a foundational model layer. So being really thoughtful about your investments and picking the right vendors is important for business success with generative AI.
That's great. Han, what about you?
So in Click, we have fun monthly competition about how to best use Gemini in your day-to-day. And, to our surprise, the amount of examples that our colleagues provided was, first of all, very creative, and number two, really spot on. And I felt like, there is a pretty significant level of anxiety sometimes around AI and job displacement and such. But really, I think if we can help our colleagues in getting familiar with AI in ways that are fun and friendly and see AI tools as their companion, there's just so much more opportunity as well as more traction that we can guide them on this, journey of improving their productivity, improving the company's efficiency when it comes to using AI as the help, as the tool.
I just want to say thank you again to Alex and to Han, and I've been your host, and I'm thrilled to have been so. Sarah Kennedy, it's been my pleasure to be a part of this discussion with all of you today, and hope you enjoy the rest of the Startup Summit.
From the beginning of Neuro, we've really invested in AI models to be able to see the world. Action. I'm Andrew Clare. I'm the Chief Technology Officer of Neuro. We built an AI-first, we call the Neuro Driver, which is intended to drive any kind of vehicle on roads, whether it's a custom delivery vehicle, a consumer passenger car, or even a Class 8 truck. Data is certainly one of our first challenges. Really creating a very efficient data cycle and data engine to power our AI. Secondly is safety. Neuro is incredibly proud of our safety record. We have been operating driverless vehicles on public roads in 3 states since 2020 with a pristine safety record. That's really critical to have in our industry. Finally, I'd say the other big challenge is scalability. We want something that has both hardware and software scalability to be able to go to a large swath of both the United States and eventually internationally as well. We wanted to move to a more modern architecture. We moved from doing training on Google Cloud GPUs over to TPU v5. And what that enabled us to do was to accelerate the training time of that model by 2x without any incremental cost. We've been a proud partner of Google Cloud for many years now, and it all starts with the massive amount of data that Neuro has to process. We have a large in-house fleet of vehicles that are always gathering sensor data from driving on public roads. That produces petabytes worth of data that we need to manage and then utilize for all of the training of our various AI models. And we'll actually use that to run a large-scale simulation on GKE. It allows us to do really rapid iteration cycles to continue to improve our autonomy stack. And it also ensures that when we are ready to go driverless with a new release, we're really confident in the safety of that release as well. The entire industry right now is focused on how do you take something that works in small scale demonstrations and prepare it for scale. I'm super excited about what Neuro is building. I think the next 5 years, we're going to go from a small quantity of vehicles with L4 autonomous technology to millions of vehicles. It's enabled by all the recent advancements in AI. It's enabled by the partnership that we have with Google Cloud. Neuro is building a new way to build L4 autonomous vehicle technology.
Good morning, everyone. My name is James Lee, and I'm the General Manager for the Startups and AI business here at Google Cloud. Today, I'm incredibly excited to have with me our fellow panelists, Joe Greenberg Chase, who's a partner at Capital G, and Sam Eisler, who's a partner at Lightspeed here. Welcome, Joe, and welcome, Sam. We're going to spend some time together today to talk about the current AI investment hotspots. We're going to dive into some current trends, and then we're also going to talk a little bit about what investors are focusing on today. So to start, I thought maybe I could hand it over to Joe and Sam to just talk a little bit about yourself and your firm, and maybe just give our audience a bit of a taste for what kind of AI investments you typically make and which stage you invest in. So maybe start with you, Joe.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me, James. I'm really excited to be here and excited for the conversation. So as you mentioned, I'm Jill. I'm a partner at Capital G. I lead all of our AI investments, which I've done for the past 5 years. But as you all may imagine, it's been increasingly exciting over the past several. Capital G is Alphabet's independent growth fund. So 2 parts to that. Independent, meaning we invest entirely for financial return, and growth, meaning typically post-product market fit. James, you asked a little bit about sort of stage and what types of companies we typically invest in. I would say that while we typically are post-product market fit, in particular with AI, we have started to move a bit earlier. And I think what's more unique about our investment approach is how concentrated and thematic we are. And so I lead our AI investing. I spend 100% of my time doing that. I work a lot with the folks at DeepMind and Google Brain and GCP to sort of develop our investment theses and find exciting companies. And through that, I would say we have a pretty wide spectrum of types of companies that we like to invest in. For example, I led 2 Series A's in the past year, both AI companies, and then also led a secondary investment in a pre-IPO company. So really run the gamut, just what gets us excited and where our investment theses take us.
That's great, Joe. Thank you. Sam, same question over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Super excited to be here. Thanks for having me. I'm Sam. I'm a partner at Lightspeed. Lightspeed is a multi-stage, multi-geo, multi-sector investment fund. I've been at the firm for 2 years. I joined to basically help us open up our New York office, which is where I'm sitting today, although we have offices in California and around the world. I spend most of my time actually on the fintech side of things. Lightspeed, as I mentioned, is a multi-sector firm, and we invest from enterprise to consumer to healthcare to fintech, from seed all the way to IPO. My area of expertise is really within the fintech ecosystem, more on the early stage side. I spend about 80% of my time there, but I do a little bit of growth investing and across other verticals. We don't have an AI specific team, like in the same way that Jill's team is structured, but I would say all of our verticals touch AI in so many different forms, especially over the course of the last year and a half, as things have really been developing at rapid pace. Within our fintech practice, we've made 12 investments since I've been here across a host of different categories, things from capital markets technology, wealth technology, the CFO suite, infrastructure. And while maybe they're all not pure AI first companies, almost all of them have elements of AI that have been enhanced throughout the last developments that we've seen over the course of the last 18 months. And it's been a really core part of our investment thesis. So excited to talk more about that here.
I love both of you are such seasoned investors, but you're coming in with different perspective. So I think this is going to be a really great conversation. So with that, let's get down to business. Joe, I've got the first question for you. As we know, in AI space, everything is ever changing. It's such a dynamic market. How has your AI investment thesis evolved throughout this year? What kind of AI investments are you personally excited about making over, what you've made or will be making in the next year?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's I feel so fortunate to be an AI focused investor right now. It's an incredible time to be following the space for 2 reasons, really. One is how nascent and quickly evolving the technology itself is. And then 2, correspondingly, how nascent and quickly evolving the buying behavior and value creation is. And so I feel like over the past really 3 years in particular, we've seen these step function changes on the technology side that have unlocked all of these new elements of value and very cool applications on the buying behavior side. And then that spurs ideas for the technical side, which then there's another step function change, which spurs value creation on the application side. And so it's been a really fun wave to watch. I would say the thing that makes it hard to invest in the category as a result of that dynamic is you're always waiting for what the next step function change in the model is going to look like. And when that happens, there are all of these downstream impacts on the differentiation of the application layer and the defensibility of the application layer and how much value is going to accrue to the foundation model versus the application or the incumbents. And so we've sort of spent a lot of the last 3 years really trying to come up with a thesis on how things are going to evolve over the long term, rather than sort of reacting to these small differences and changes that have happened in sort of 6-month increments. So with that context in mind, I'd say we effectively think of the AI category in 3 subsegments. The first is foundation models themselves. The second is infrastructure to either build or leverage those foundation models. And then the third is end applications. Our thesis on foundation models is, I think we've seen sort of this take place over the past couple of years, is that there is a tremendous amount of innovation that can and will take place and that it is likely headed towards commoditization over time, probably by a select few number of players who have the resources available to be able to sort of continue to scale the models. And so we've stayed away from making big investments in that sort of big foundation model space for that reason. With the exception of a company called Magic.dev, which I led the Series A in a couple of years ago. And actually, they recently announced a big and exciting relationship with GCP, which James knows about. The reason we were able to lean in and sort of got conviction in that investment is they were building with a new type of model architecture that allows for 100 million token context windows, which is obviously incredibly exciting as you think about what applications you can apply that to. In Magic's case, it's coding. But I can talk about that more later. But I think the point I'm trying to make here is it was a true differentiated model architecture, which got us excited about making the bet in the foundation model space, not just competing on sort of scaling or resources. The second category of infrastructure, I think, is extremely exciting because you can abstract away whatever swirling is happening on the buying side and whatever swirling is happening on the foundation model side. If you can invest in the infrastructure layer, you're sort of indexed to people using AI more and more over time. And so that's a space that we've spent quite a bit of time on, and I think I'm very bullish around. And then the third is this application layer, which we break down into two subsegments. The first is what we call a thin layer, and the second is what we would call a thick layer. A thin layer is a technology application that is basically a thin workflow that sits on top of a model API where there's not a lot else to differentiate it. I would say we're bearish on that just because we're concerned about the level of competition that comes in. A thick layer, conversely, is something where the technology, whether it's through integrations or sticky workflows, is quite hard to replicate, even though you might switch in and out the model API on the back end. So that's sort of how we think about the space more broadly and where we get excitement.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you, Jill. First of all, congrats on all the success, especially with Magic. We're
Thanks.
obviously very excited to also work with the team there. But you're right. I feel like the initial kind of exuberance and excitement is not necessarily fading away, but it's normalizing a little bit. Now investors and the market at large is really paying special attention to, okay, does this company have a core advantage? Are you just a certain like a model wrapper? Like what have you got that cannot be easily imitated, right? So I'm definitely with you. The bar is going to be raising higher and higher going forward.
Totally.
Sam, my next question is for you. Given your fintech background, I'd love to maybe zoom out a little bit and just talk about the investment landscape at large. Where do you see opportunities across the board, models or application specific, or maybe in some cases both? Do you favor one over the other? What does that mean? Because we obviously have a lot of founders in the audience who are listening to us. Like, what does it mean for them who are seeking investments?
Yeah, no, great question. Thanks. And it's really interesting hearing Jill's perspective. I feel like she also kind of touched on this a little bit, and we share a lot of the same opinions. I mean, I'll take a step back and talk about the Lightspeed team more broadly, and then happy to go into the fintech lens as well. The Lightspeed team more broadly has invested both on the foundational model side and on the application specific side. And I would say looking ahead, we definitely see opportunities in both. Although to Jill's point, I think on the foundational model side, we can expect to see some market concentration here happening over the course of the next few years. And while I think there's still room for a couple new players to emerge in this ecosystem, I think we've started to see who are the people that are at the forefront here. And I don't expect as much shifting and changing as I expect to see on the application layer side. I naturally, as a fintech investor, spend more of my time specifically on the application specific side, just by given like the vertical nature of how I invest. But I'm excited about both opportunities, and I think the firm is excited about both opportunities. In the fintech specific application layer investments, we've made investments in companies that are leveraging AI for categories like corporate debt. We led the seed round in a company called Noetica. They're basically helping benchmark corporate debt terms in real time. We led the seed round in a company called Tabs, which is doing accounts receivable automation and leveraging AI to do the invoicing, communications, and payment processes between organizations. And we led the seed round in a company called InScope,
which is leveraging AI to automate the 10Q process within the accounting ecosystem. And we're definitely bullish on all those areas and then some. We're particularly excited about areas like risk and fraud, wealth management, and compliance right now, just because I think there's a lot of low-hanging fruit. And to Jill's point, like, while we're not as excited about like thin wrapper layer investments, I think that there's just a lot that can be done at the super base layer, given the level of information and data proliferation in all of those different verticals. At the end of the day, an application-specific product is going to be able to come to market probably faster. And, the downside there is maybe they'll have a little bit more of a niche dominance from where it is. That's not always a bad thing. So it really depends on the full contextual analysis of the investment.
Yeah, what I take away from your response is, AI just for the sake of AI is not that interesting. AI for the sake of transforming business models. You gave a couple of examples in the fintech industry, right? Allowing things to be done that could not be done before, and changing the way customers and consumers are interacting with the business. I mean, that's kind of where AI is unlocking value.
Definitely agreed.
Great. As a next question, Joe, I wanted to come back to you. Many founders are. I mean, this is still obviously a very, very exciting space, and founders are looking for funding. As a growth stage investor, when you're looking at startups, at the founding team or at the business model, what are some of the things that you look for when you're making that decision? Maybe some pointers, some advice for our founders as they're thinking about building either model, infrastructure, or applications.
For sure. I think that one of the many differences between early and growth stage investing, obviously, is the valuation at which you're coming in at from the investor perspective. And the real thing that implies and why it matters is how big of a company a growth investor needs this to be in order to make money. And so the example would be like, if I want to 3x my money and I'm coming in at a $500 million valuation, simple math, need this company to be a $1.5 billion company in order to sort of 3x my money. And the reason I bring that up as context to answer your question is because you need this business to be a $1.5 billion business, you actually care a lot more about things like go-to-market and feeling like there is a very clear and efficient go-to-market story. There are enough logos in the market that you can get to the revenue scale required to become a $1.5 billion market cap company. You also care a lot more about differentiation than you would at the earlier stages, because if you're investing at a much lower valuation, then you're kind of picking among a bunch of folks who kind of all do roughly similar things. You don't know who the winner is yet, but it's okay, because if that company ends up not being the winner, then maybe they'll be acquired for something that's a little bit lower. Obviously, that's not the goal, but that's always a potential outcome. When you come in at the growth stage, you don't really have that, or the exit, you need it to be a much higher exit in order to feel good about that. And so my advice for founders is when you're pitching growth investors, be very clear about how you're differentiated from other players in the market, and be very clear about what your go-to-market strategy is and how it's efficient and how it will scale. And I think that's what gets growth investors really excited.
That's great. I think at the growth investment stage, obviously, the stakes are higher, the exits are higher, the valuations are higher. But I think this is where you got to show traction, right? You need to have customers, you need to show revenue, you need to show profitability. It's a lot less forgiving at that stage.
Totally. It's exciting though, because I think you also oftentimes get the chance, like I find myself talking to founders about what their act 2 is going to be, because, you get excited about act 1, you see the scaling, they sort of sell me on all of that. And then I'm like, all right, what's next? And that's my favorite part of those conversations, because I often catch people at the point at which things are really humming with their first act and they get to sort of sell me the dream of what's next.
Sounds good. Sam, I've got a kind of an interesting question I would love to get your thoughts on. I meet a lot with founders during my normal course of work, and I feel like there's always a bit of a tension between, hey, do I want to be the first to market and leapfrog everybody else and come up with, be it a business model or a technology that's groundbreaking, never been done before? Or do I want to be someone who's not necessarily first to market, but more of an evolutionary step, right? Something that's been done, but I refine it, I perfect it, I built on top of things that have been done before. Like, how do you think about that in the context of AI, proven applications versus brand new models, businesses, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I think there's an answer to this question in independent of AI, and there's probably an answer to this question with the context of AI as well, but I'll answer it more generally and then happy to focus in too. I mean, the short answer and maybe the easy answer is I'm not prescriptive. I want to invest in both. I think there's an opportunity to invest in companies who are reinventing the wheel on a stodgy industry, or they've created entirely new technology, especially in fintech, which is historically quite an old vertical with a lot of stodgy technology to be replaced. I've made a lot of investments in companies that aren't necessarily groundbreaking at the top level, but what they're actually doing is groundbreaking in terms of processes or in terms of output or things along those lines. And I think both are really exciting. I'd say at the end of the day, especially on the early stage side, the things I care the most about are founder market fit, size of the overall prize, and the why now. Founder market fit, why are you the person to build this? Do you have some sort of competitive edge, whether that's on the go-to-market side, that's on the product side, that's on the distribution side, et cetera. Size of the prize, at the end of the day, while I am investing smaller sums of money at the early stage, I still need these to be relatively large markets and have sizable outcomes, especially Lightspeed's a multi-stage, multi-billion-dollar fund. So the return sizes are quite large in expectation. And then the why now? I've seen a lot of absolutely excellent pitches that lack just the ability of this is the time to do this. And unfortunately had to pass on them, but kept in touch with a lot of those founders just because, there wasn't a clear articulation of why this is the right time to do that. And then the last part, just the nuance, right? I would say within AI, we're probably more and more investing on the groundbreaking technology side, just given the new nature of things. But I still think even leveraging AI is low hanging fruit, especially in some of the categories I mentioned, risk, fraud, compliance. There's a lot to be done with the systems that are already in place and just streamlining and automating that. And we're eager to invest in both sides of the coin.
That's fantastic. It's actually a nice segue into my final question, maybe a bit of a lightning round for both of you. Any parting thoughts, words of wisdom for founders, especially pitfalls that they want to avoid when they're pitching to VCs? Maybe we'll start with you, Sam.
Sure. I think the number one thing for me is at the end of the day, you know the business better than I do. And so I'd love to have you tell me your opinion as opposed to look for mine. I have theories, I have theses, and I've spent a lot of time in markets, but I don't have all the answers. And at the end of the day, I'm not going to be the one running the company. And so having an opinion is really important, and having a direction and vision as well.
Great. Joe?
Yeah, I totally agree. The thing I'd add is be authentic, be transparent, be candid. I tell my portfolio companies this all the time. Something is always going wrong somewhere. If everything were going right, I would not believe it. And so the biggest pitfall I see is when I ask a founder something what's going wrong? What's the biggest risk? And they're like, nothing. I'm drowning in pipeline, or, there's really no risks. It's just about execution. Sometimes it's hard to really believe that, because I'm here hopefully to partner with you and help you with those challenges. And so I'd rather have a transparent conversation with it during the process and put our heads together on how we can solve them.
Great. Well, that's all the time we have. So thank you, Joe and Sam, again, for sharing your perspective and insights with everyone. I certainly enjoyed the session with you. And for all our listeners, thank you for listening in. I hope you learned a few tips on how to, differentiate yourselves and secure funding from top VCs. I also like to encourage you to come check out the ongoing AMA series, where Google Cloud will host different VCs each month. And answer questions that you may have, and scan the QR code to join us for future events specifically designed for global startups and investment community. With that, take care, and we'll see you next time.
Connected Stories, we are saying goodbye to rigid creative workflows. Our platform helps businesses create dynamic content that is personalized to build lasting customer relationship. With generative AI, we can do this at scale in real time. I'm Tommaso Vaccarella, and I'm the co-founder and general manager of Connected Stories. In the bad old days, personalizing content meant manually tweaking every little element. With Connected Stories, we are revolutionizing the entire creative workflow. Now advertisers can manage the entire process end-to-end, expediting the generation and assembly of images, videos, and text, most likely to connect with specific audiences. We have developed an AI creative assistant supported by Gemini, capable of analyzing briefs and turning them into sophisticated strategies. The assistant orchestrates our creative studio to build personalized content through Gen AI, therefore unlocking personalization at scale. Leveraging Google Cloud, we have made it easy for brands to integrate their first-party data and assets within our platform. After processing it through Vertex AI, it is effortlessly taken into the platform where it is used to customize the AI models so that the content is 100% compliant with the brand's policies and guidelines. It basically becomes an in-house solution where everything is tailor-made for each brand. Once the content is live, the platform gathers granular data about how users are interacting with it, which versions are performing better, and more, then applying optimizations in real time. All this data is then fed back into our brand knowledge graph, creating a positive feedback loop of insights and optimization. First of all, Google Cloud is ideal for enterprise use, as it's very safe and attentive to data protection, which is vital for user data, making AI responsible. Our synergy also makes the entire process more sustainable, as the platform creates only the necessary combinations in real time, avoiding unnecessary energy consumption. The range of available solutions and models gives us the flexibility to keep on innovating with generative AI long into the future. For example, we're just now integrating the newly announced text-to-live image features, and there's much more to come. That's very exciting.
Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. Good evening. We're excited to have everyone from all around the world leaning in with us for a little bit of time today to spend some valuable time with two founders who have made very critical decisions about AI partnerships. Let me introduce who they are, and then let's dive into this content. First of all, I want to welcome Akash Sharma, who's CEO and founder of Vellum AI. And I also want to welcome Taesung Park, who's chief scientist at Rev, for joining me today.
Thanks, Darren. Thank you so much for having us. So excited to be here.
Hello, everyone. I'm Taesung. Thank you for inviting me.
We are so excited to have you here because there's nothing more valuable than learning from your experience. So obviously, in the midst of the excitement of the AI revolution that we're all embracing and living through, we want to make sure that we're providing some time to pause. And as I said, really reflect and gain some insights and some wisdom from some really hard decisions that each of you have made in launching and building really fascinating companies. So let's go ahead and dive in. I want to make sure that each of you have the chance to tell our viewers about the companies that you're building, but also, as I said, let's make sure to really tap into some of the experience that you've gained over time. So Akash, let's start with you. First of all, can you start by first telling us about Vellum? Give us an idea of what you're doing and how you're leveraging generative AI. And then go a little bit deeper into your decision-making process for selecting a Gen AI provider, and what criteria did you use to come to that conclusion?
Absolutely. So a little bit about us. We're an end-to-end LLM ops platform that enables Gen AI use cases for thousands of developers around the world. Companies use our tooling for prompt engineering, evaluations, document retrieval, and workflow orchestration to quickly and reliably bring their AI ideas to life. Vertex AI is a core component of our offering. We actually started out with another cloud provider, but Google Cloud just had the most sensible abstractions, and we found it really easy to use. I think GKE is the best managed Kubernetes service in the world, and we really also like Cloud Run, Cloud Tasks, PubSub. When building an AI system for production, we recommend finding the optimal balance between quality, cost, latency, and privacy. I think Gemini's family of models, Pro, Ultra, and Flash, gives us a whole range of options to choose from, so we can find the right model for each task consistently. And on top of that, Vertex AI also gives us more models beyond the Gemini family, which is just always helpful to compare across these different models.
Thanks so much, Akash. And in fact, you said a few things there that we're going to come back to in our time together. So let's park that for a moment and come over to Tai-Sung and talk a bit about Rev. I'd love to hear a little bit more about what you're trying to accomplish and the big problems you're trying to solve with generative AI. And also, can you help us understand your decision-making process for selecting that Gen AI provider? And again, what criteria did you find to be most important in that decision process?
Yeah, Rev's goal is to enable controllable visual content generation. Although there exist emission video generation tools based on text prompts, they focus on only treating text as their input so far. And because of that, a lot of professional content creators are finding it very difficult to exactly reproduce what they are imagining in their head. What they want is, in a sense, non-verbal controls, as if whenever this failure happens, if it takes multiple days to fix this, these GPUs cannot be included in our development run, and that's going to be very damaging. So being able to reliably fix